I'm trying to stream.
I want to tell you something. I had a good dream.
Awesome.
It was about your favorite show, My Little Pony.
Oh, that's awesome. I really like My Little
Special
Pony.
one.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was so awesome.
That's sweet, baby. You're such a good girl.
I want to go back to sleep.
Okay. I'm glad you had a good dream.
Mom,
Yeah, that's fine.
I remember what feeling.
Yeah?
Yeah. And Mom,
Yeah.
I
I love you too, sweetheart.
Mom,
Oh.
you forgot your tablet. It wasn't bad.
Oops, that means it's probably a dead battery now.
I just laid on my head on it. Mom, can you turn it on? Mom, it's not a dead battery.
Is it close? Is it close?
I don't know.
Camera's like upside down.
Oh, Mom, I remember. I turn it off.
Oh, good. I'm glad you turned it off.
Mom, try to turn it on again.
Go on to configure video. Because it's like upside down. This is terrible. I don't know why it's doing this. I have to deal with the fact that it's upside down. Properties. Transform.
Mom, it's dead.
There we go.
It's dead.
Did it?
That showed me a dead battery. I'm so tired.
I don't know. It's way too early for you to be up right now anyway. Especially since you went to bed so late last night.
Silly?
Yeah.
I did not went to bed, silly.
You went to bed late last night. Now keep that low. If you want to listen to it louder, go out in the living room, okay?
Mom, today it's all my dolls' birthday today. It's all of them.
Okay.
The little dolls.
Okay. Just me in the stream. Stream's not very healthy. Can't help that. I'm trying very hard. This is not a good thing. This difficulty. But I gotta make do with what I gotta make do with. Straight animation paper. The downside is just straight animation paper is there's no registration marks. See, as straight as I get it, it's not completely straight. this is actually 2 because one would be just background. Can't see because the chat box is right here. I might just make that frame go away. There, the chat box will show up if people are in there and actually watching. So this isn't normally the way you'd want to do a bouncing ball. Not really. But this is like... it's kind of a crutch, really, in my opinion. Mind you, that's just my opinion. But I'm doing this from the ground up based on stuff that I was taught years ago. One of the problems is keeping the volume of the ball consistent. It is a huge issue. A very common mistake. Ugh, I'm chicken scratching. I only have one camera. I don't have my webcam up because my face cam that I'm using here, it's really not the best, but my good webcam is not working with the borrowed computer that I have. So my stream quality is very poor right now. I don't think I could even use this for editing videos. It's just not. Start to deform it here just a bit. Generally, when you do key to key or pose to pose, you don't want to do it this way, because you want to see it as it works, but as it stands, 1, 2. See, I messed up. I already missed one. I missed this one. So this is 5. volume's already kind of shifted a little. I gotta be careful of that. It doesn't look too bad with the missing frame, but we'll see. One, two, three, four, five. That should have been 6. This is the problem with a lack of registration. That's why that metal peg bar that I had is so important. Without it, it kind of slows the whole process down. These are all messed up. 3. 1, 2, 4. 4. 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7. There we go. Now I got my number in right. Maybe. My cat's under my table. Sugar boy. Sugar boy. Now I'm betting my stream is pretty poor right now. The computer I'm using is my old one, and my son's been using it for watching YouTube videos and gaming and everything else. So in order not to mess up his logins or mess him up, I had to use a different browser than what I normally use. Oh. Now this is deforming as it's going down to emphasize speed. So you go from a ball that kind of like hangs in the air and then drops. And then when it hits, it has a bit of a slow in here to emphasize weight. So it comes screaming down, touches the ground, reforms into kind of a ball shape, and then flattens out. And then it comes back up to a ball shape and then back out. Kind of like anticipation. 9. Why am I drawing the ground line when I don't all the time? Because I'm goofy and I keep forgetting it. I'm wondering how my stream looks and sounds. I'm sure it sounds terrible. I don't know if... I don't know which mic is being used, if it's this webcam mic or if it's my laptop. My laptop that I'm borrowing. So, audio quality sucks, video quality sucks, but at least I found a temporary solution until I can get something, either a new machine or my machine fixed. The more I look into it, the more I think that I should just get a new machine. This is B10. Registration mark, ground line. This is one of the problems with using that, is you can sometimes redraw the same frame. And again, this is why the registration marks are important. For anybody watching, this is just straight... Oh no, it's not enough volume. Took too much of it to tail off. This is straight traditional animation. Excuse me. The setup that I have... Still took too much of the tail off. The setup that I have here... I got this light tablet. It's very thin. It's not even a proper light table. It's a light tablet on Amazon, which I can put the link in the description. It'll be my referral link, so well, it will be my referral link at some point, but right now, since I don't have enough people in my streams or on my chats that are interested in things like this, that would buy something like this, Amazon kind of nixed my account, and now I have to go through some rigmarole to get it to work again. Now, when we talk about frames per second, most traditional anime is done on 24. I've already hit 10 frames. And if these are shot on 2s, when I get to my 12th frame, that would be 1 second of animation. Now, depending on how your video program is set up, whether it's 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second, depends entirely on, you know, what your outcome is. It'll be a lot smoother animation. However, that's a lot more drawings to do. So in traditional animation, you have to think about what makes sense. Like overall, oh, I turned it off again. How is that happening? I don't know. I see I have another viewer. Hi, other viewer. So I'm on 11. I am animating today. I have other client work I need to work on, but for that, I need to make sure my version of Photoshop on this old machine, which cannot handle CC, and I never updated it. I think it's CS6. If that still works well enough. And then I have to see whether or not my scanner and this old machine will actually work together. So oh, I'm doing it again. It's a fairly poor quality stream, and I'm sorry about that. But the option was not stream at all. I think the volume is the same. When you're morphing and changing something from a circular spot about that big to that, it takes practice to get that right. And to think of it, I don't think I have it right. I think it's too small of a volume. There. Okay, that works. With this kind of animating, the next step is to import all the frames into a video format. In much more traditional animation, that would require camera setup, similar to what I have here, and then taking the base where the registration mark peg bars would be solid, so it wouldn't shift or move. And then you would place the animation on those peg bars. The camera would not photograph the peg bars, it would just photograph the frame, which is what this space here, that's the frame. Excuse me. And then, I do believe, if I remember right, that's a 12 frame. And the camera would take a single picture on a piece of film. Click, 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 click. I could maybe do that with if I switched out my phone for this really terrible camera, Sorry, camera. You're a very good camera because you're still working. What I could do is I could take those individual pictures and then put them in like KindMaster, which is a mobile app, which I might try to do. Or I can use Movie Maker or something, and then send the files over to my computer and put them together frame by frame. If I do this all on 2s, it'll look different than if I do some of them on 2s, some of them on 1s. Excuse me. And what that means is that's bigger than that one. So what I want to do is almost an anticipatory frame. Where this is hit, and the weight of gravity and the momentum is already starting to deform it. That's where you go back to this, F equals ma. The force of the impact is based on mass times acceleration. This is where nerdy geekery comes into animation. Like, you can learn this without really knowing the science behind it, but knowing the science behind it, in my personal opinion, does help. So what that means is force times equals mass times acceleration. The ball is like a kind of a squishy ball. It doesn't have a huge amount of mass. It's very bouncy. Made of like some kind of rubber or something, right? So not only does the mass of it give some, which leads to more squashing and stretching, but it also allows us to have an idea of what the overall weight is for this, so that our squash and stretch can be a little bit more realistic. So because this is a lighter mass and it's going pretty fast, the squash is going to be pretty extreme. If you look at slow-mo videos, you can actually see squash and stretch at work in the real world. And then it flattens out here. This is where an animation disc would help, because I could rotate this completely around, because I'm actually drawing this ever so slightly lopsided, and I'm not. It's just how I draw it sometimes. Yeah. So here I have to take into consideration the mass of the original ball, right? And I have to compare it to the mass of the squashed ball. Is it the same? And this is where this comes into play, where you have to take the sum of the part that's squashed and transfer it to the sides. And then when you animate this going up and down, squishing, it will look more plausible. Now my next step, this is using this technique is actually fairly common in puppet animation, where you draw the line of motion, right? Draw the line of motion, and then you have the shape move along the line of motion. Oh my goodness. I can't really move this much because it's plugged in order for it to turn on. And there it's recoiling back before it launches back off. I'm at 14 individual frames. 14 individual drawings. This is why traditional animation, even tradigital animation, where it's like 2D digital animation, takes so long. In this case, in this type of pipeline, instead of doing it on a program, because I'm doing it straight up traditionally on paper, I add time to my work. And I don't want, as I'm thinking about it, I don't want these frames all to be the same. So instead of having it still attached to the ground down here as it leaps off, as I had it in the other one coming down, I'm going to give it a little bit more of a hop. And I'm going to have it off the ground. Just a bit. Again, I gotta watch my volume control. Right, so it's not touching the ground, whereas so here's the sequence. So it touches the ground. It's more of a ball shape as it squashes down. Flattens out. This one's kind of an egg shape as it comes up, so it's slightly different. And then it's off the ground. So instead of being exactly the same thing, like to save animation, I could have made it more central instead of coming at an angle. Have it more centrally located for the teardrop shape. And just repeated it back out again. And that saves total frames. But the animation looks very cookie cutter. If you know what you're looking at, you can tell. Now, because I'm not just doing traditional pose to pose, this is just practice to get me to remember my timing. Using this can be kind of a crutch depending on who you talk to. I don't know. That's just my opinion. And we all know what opinions have in common with everything else in the world. Everybody has one, right? Well, maybe not with everything else in the world, because not everybody has everything. Ah, I'm getting philosophical. Stop. So, that's come up off the ground. So we're going to thin this out some. Again, remembering our overall volume, right? And then slow in, slow out. So it's very slow in the beginning. As it comes down, it's coming down fast, but it still has a slow in. So instead of going boink, it goes squish, jump. So here, it's going to slow down some more because this is where some of the other physical principles, which I can't think of off the top of my head right now, are occurring, is that some of the energy, the potential energy, turns into kinetic motion. When it hits the ground, it dispels some of that energy. So on the return bounce, because of friction and impact, even though the ball itself is absorbing most of that impact, some of the impact energy is in the ground. So once the ball bounces, you might see a little divot, like a little tiny space where the ground is scuffed. That's that energy coming from the ball falling is what caused that scuff mark. So that's dispersed energy. So because some of the energy dispersed on impact, the bounce back up is less. Super balls, the ones that if you slam on the ground, you could just about launch over a building. The type of material that they're made from tends to absorb that same energy and return it. So even though you hit the ground really hard, it kind of just absorbs that energy from being slammed onto the ground and just launches itself back up again. And that's where you need to know your materials. A bowling ball, if you slammed it onto the ground, would hop probably a little bit and then just roll. A steel ball might hop a little bit and just roll. It might bounce twice, maybe, depending on the density of the steel. A tennis ball is made in such a way as to give it a lot of springiness, so it might launch as well. A ball made of slime might just splat and not bounce at all. So knowing what your material is really important to animating it. I am now at 16 frames. This is 17. Oh my goodness. The reason why I'm trying to get them on here straight is when you scan them in, because the scanner scans it even. If while drawing on it the paper shifts, you're going to have to adjust that in Photoshop, which is why my registration mark is so important and why that ground line is so important. So what I'm doing here is I'm thinking about the morphing. And how it's coming back into a ball shape. 17 frames. Some of my client work that requires me to scan things in, I'm going to have to do that offline because I don't want to cause the stream to stutter and lag too bad. Oh, jeez. To stutter and lag too bad. Because Photoshop, even older versions of Photoshop, took up a lot of GPU and CPU processes. Oh, I know what happened. That happened. This is why this setup, although it works for what it's worth, isn't the best tool system. Because even though it works, my animation is not going to be without its issues. So in post-production, when I'm cleaning it up and fixing it, I have to keep that in mind. Again, which is why that registration mark is so important. 18. And also why that ground line is so important. Otherwise the ball would be all over. You'll find this true in a lot of older animation where these tools just didn't exist. Still slightly deformed, not as bad. Not as bad. Almost a ball. This is where you really need to check your volumes. On frame 20. So that would be this one, which should be almost a duplicate of this first wall. Now this is where this particular style of practice of actually charting out your bouncing ball like this can be useful, but a little cheating, as you can see how my volume has in fact changed. In digital animation you can replicate this just by copying this particular one. So I wasn't too far off. one of the things that A&B Animation had said in regards to figuring out timing is you don't always have it planned out how many frames something's going to be until after you have the pose kind of figured out. My ground line's going to all be like so 21. So then again, slow in, slow out. So what we have here is the slow in for the next impact. If I remember right from, that's hot, from what I learned, is that these are the key poses. These are the in-betweens. And then those in-betweens have in-betweens. So, for this one, I'm actually going to move this one some. It's too evenly spaced, and that when you do something that's a little too even or too perfect. Hi Wrestler, good morning. I just saw you. I'm using Streamlabs OBS because it can automatically check my system. The problem is that the old computer that I'm on, I can only use my old Logitech camera, so my camera quality is crappy, and probably my audio too, but I can't tell. But good morning. I'm animating today and talking through it. I have, well, where'd my little werewolfy go? The cat stole him. No. Anyway, I have a little stuffed animal that's about this big that I sit off camera and I talk to it so I don't feel weird. How you doing today, Wrestler? So this one's going to be longer. Again, I have to pay attention to the weight or the volume of that. See, I'm off center all kinds. Yep. Yeah. I suppose talking to stuffed animals is just one step shy of talking to yourself. Some people talk to their cars. You know, that's the thing. Hold on. Excuse me. Oh, that one only came in 2s. They usually come in 3s. So again, I have to mind volume between the original ball and this one. Oh, I forgot to do my registration mark and the frame number 23. Well, thanks for stopping by, man. I appreciate it. I'm very lonely in the morning because I'm one of the few people on the East Coast that stream this early. Because honestly, nobody's up this early. Except maybe overnight workers going to bed. Or something. But I do this because my daughter's awake. She was sleeping. But if I try to do this kind of thing during the day, I have, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinner demands, house cleaning, laundry, the two kids arguing with each other, and that's just not good for a stream. My oldest son is coming back from college next week, Wrestler says. Have to go to Costco and buy them out of food. Yes, growing boys, they eat a lot. I have one that's just hitting his puberty strides, and he is skinny as anything and eats me out of house and home. Eats everybody out of house and home. So I feel you. Totally feel you on that one. So I did that one. So this one I'm going to make another almost or just about contact point. See, the funny thing is with gaming streams, when they talk about FPS and animation, they're talking about the same kind of thing. I could probably animate at 30 FPS, but that means for every second of animation, I would have to produce 30 drawings. That's not going to happen. Or I can rely on the physics, the illusion of life, what is it called? It's a, oh, I forgot the term. Ugh. My jargon just left me. I've been abandoned by my animation jargon. I just ran out of printer paper. Oh look, there's more in the printer. Good. But when it comes to games, the reason why they look so smooth and realistic is because the models are moving tiny, itty bitty, teeny tiny little bitty, teeny tiny increments of motion for every. So you have 30 frames of motion. It's like. It's all good. Thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate the support. It's awesome. And go make sure Costco is empty. Take care, man. So this one's 25. So this one would be this. The actual impact, which will spread it out some. And I have to get more printer paper. And then instead of having a ball like I had over here, I'm just going to go straight into deforming it. this one's going to be the ball shape, just slightly deformed. But already in motion going this way. And the deformation's not as much because it's losing power. Like the stretchiness, it's not as much. Because each time it hits and launches, it loses energy. So I'm at 29 frames. No. Slightly deformed ball. However, I gotta be careful not to lose volume, which is very easy to do. See, it's a little bit smaller than it needs to be. So I need to there. Sure that doesn't. See, even that's small. Volume control, very, very touchy. Will I have enough animation paper left? I don't know. printer paper, I should say. I'm getting up to the end. I can feel it in my chest. I'm like, almost done, almost done, almost done. It's like running a race, except I'm not running. I'm animating. But it's very much that sensation. It's like, I'm almost there, I'm almost there, I'm almost to the end. I'm all excited and stuff. Okay, so this one is here. So this next one is this one here. Wobbling, blah blah blah. This is another reason why this style of animation, this kind of planned out, doesn't work so well, because the freaking thing wobbles. I forgot the registration mark. Probably wrong, but I'm at 33 frames now. Still probably not enough. And I won't know until I test it. And even though this is the registration mark, and this is the edge of my animation, you still draw outside of it. Because if you don't draw outside of it, then you're gonna like throw yourself off. It's like drawing through a picture, trying to do anatomy right. And I ran out of printer paper. This may be enough. Oh, there's only 2 pieces here. I'm going to have to go into my drawer where I keep my ream printer paper. Hey honey, that is way too loud. I can hear it all the way in here. Please turn it down. one more. I should be done. 35 frames of animation. Oh my god. And then all I have to do is figure out a way of how to make them digital. Now I'm doing this because the light over here is making it hard to see the line. So you can't see the line through the thing. There you go. And then it bounces off screen. That's to remind me that it needs to be cut off. Yeah, that maybe have been a bit much. Says there's 2 viewers, but I only see 1. Says there's 2 viewers, but I only see 1. Honey? No. 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 Turn it down. Oh, I said turn it down. Oh my goodness. Anyway. So yeah. So I did this to help remind me of timing. And I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I talked to A&B about it. And I'm glad I re-looked it up and studied a little bit more. I still don't know that if all of this is actually going to... Yeah, people want to hear that. Be what I need. So, 30... I don't know if you can see that. 35 individual pictures. And it's too big to flip book it, really. I could try. Yeah, skipped a couple. Oh, skipped a whole bunch. Pretty cool. I'll turn this off now. Plug it. Yes, dear.
Where is my orange bag? Oh, there it is.
Okay, go. Now the next step in this is find some way to import it over. And because of my current system being bonky, I may just change how I do things. So, but I can't because my daughter has my phone. Go figure. Oh, that's pretty cool. I haven't done that in years. And I don't think I have any kind of clothespin or massive stapler or anything to keep it pinned together. See, this here does what that does. That little registration mark, by being punched like this, the paper goes on this, and then when it's filmed, it also goes on this. So. You know what? I could still keep going. I just gotta grab more paper. Before I continue on, I want to share something important. These 3 books, this one talks about a lot of bits of the animation process, and we're talking old school animation, so this is more of a historical reference nowadays. But all the basics are in there, including that. That is a traditional animation setup, like traditional 2D. Talks about different cameras. Talks about charts. A lot of this information is still relevant, except for the filming part of things. And it goes into different kinds. Like that's, what was that? This. When people say paper cutout, this originally was what they meant. But Flash has an ability to do a digital form of this. Pretty neat, huh? This book was a book that was required by my college. Preston Blair's cartoon animation. Goes into a lot of things, character design, and ooh, the binding on this thing is falling apart. Right? It talks about rhythm and in design and cartoon art, and all this is, and then body masses and volumes, and then it gives you the different like walk cycles, run cycles, 2-legged, 4-legged, different examples. Shows your walk and run cycles and why they work the way they do using actual anatomy. This is why learning anatomy as an animator is important. Action, anticipation, reaction, like there's so much in here, and it's all really good information, including expressions, mouths, transformations, backgrounds, dialogue. It's a really good reference to have on hand, and oh my goodness, my page just fell out. What? What happened here? What happened? Ooh, I'm gonna have to fix that. Someone got in my book and ripped it. Another really good one that I found, and I love it, is the Tezuki School of Animation, Volume 2, Animals in Motion. I haven't found Volume 1. I've been looking for it. If anybody finds Volume 1, let me know, because I'm really interested in grabbing it. This is Astro Boy, and I love this because here in the sides, hold on, let me back it up. They give you flipbook like examples, which is really cool. This one goes a lot more in depth into the four-legged anatomy, dog's movement, talks about how they move, how they shake, how they run, how they walk, 3/4 forward, 3/4 rear, full forward, side view. And your horses, which have different leg and bone situations, right? And this one was always difficult for me, the forward run cycle of a four-legged animal. It just looks weird. This is a great reference to have for any kind of animator that wants to do animal animation, including bird cycles, insects. Like, they go into all kinds of things. And here's the beautiful thing. That's Kimba the white lion. The whole Simba and Kimba, yeah, this is an example that this has been out for a lot longer. And I've seen it. This is definitely a book that you'll want to have as a reference. Now this one, I spent a pretty penny on this one. I didn't get the DVDs, but this is the expanded edition of Richard Williams. This is the Bible of animation for the most part. Almost every animator that I've ever come across, when you bring up Richard Williams and you bring up this particular book, they have nothing but good things to say. And this is, it's chock full of everything possible. Everything, just everything. I will sit down anytime that I have a specific problem with a certain area, like timing, jumping, exaggeration, things like that. I'll just flip through here and try to figure out, you know, what I'm doing wrong. And this book is my go-to for like the in-depth detail, granular level. This is how you do animation. Like, I love here, it's like, this is like exaggerating your walk. You have your basic walk pose, and then he suggests different ways of making it more interesting. Like, this guy's foot swings out. And then his foot swings out the other way. So this, you have to understand perspective in drawing and in animation. This guy, he leans back and forth. So the idea is you go from a regular walk cycle to putting personality into the walk cycle. X sheets, and oh, I love that drawing. But yeah, this one comes with a DVD in the back, but it's a promotional DVD. I have never taken this sucker out. But this is just a promotional DVD. This comes with a DVD set. You can spend the extra money to have it. And that's, the DVD set is his actual lectures. Or, if you're lucky, you can find, although I don't like promoting copyright infringement for those of us who are super, super poor and don't have the money for it, I know that some of the lectures, not all of them, pieces of the lectures, are on YouTube. One day they'll be taken down because the way YouTube's algorithm is working, they'll just be gone. So there's that you got to take into consideration. But if you can save up your pennies and get those that book and those DVDs, I want the DVDs. I personally want the DVDs, but I don't have the movie to spend on them. And right now, I'm also saving up for money to get a new computer and to get my son set up for his streaming and surgery, dental bills, fixing my house. And I also want to purchase Arshad's, I think that's how you said his name, AMB Animation Academy. The Real Animator Training. Woo! I want to be able to purchase access to his, and it's a lifetime access for like the cost of an Xbox. But that cost of an Xbox is also cost of new tires. It's also, you know, partial cost towards the surgery. It's a whole bunch of medication. I have to save the money for these things, and that's just the truth. So between the DVDs by Richard Williams and AMB, their library of information and of edited videos from his live streams where he's teaching all this stuff as well. I also would love to get into Aaron Blaze's classes and buy those as well. One of the things that I learned from one of my teachers is you don't want to learn just from one teacher. You don't want to just learn, just say AMB style. You don't want to learn Richard Williams style just by itself. You don't want to learn just Aaron Blaze's style. All of these people have different perceptions, and they take the same information and they filter it, and you do it too. So the best way to really get the most out of it is to learn from multiple different people. And in doing that, you end up with a broader understanding of the subject matter because you get those different perspectives, and that's really important. Oh, I turned it off. Right. So what I'm going to do here, I need to plug that back in. So I can use the same bounce pattern, kind of, as my basis to start with, draw a bigger ball, and then animate it differently. I think that's what I'm going to do. But I think, you know what, I'm hungry. My daughter's probably very hungry, because little kids are always hungry. And, yeah, I think I'm going to try to figure out how to import that animation and then do a couple more bouncing balls. That's a part of the initial practice, is you do your bouncing balls and you get the different kinds of bouncing balls and you try to practice the weight, the anticipation, the squash and stretch, the volume, especially the volume control. And then once you get that down and you get it and you understand it, then you move on to the next thing. It's a lot like, my cat's underneath me. It's a lot like coming to understand how a tire is put together before you change the brakes. That's how I see it anyway. So I'm going to bow out. I might stream later today. I don't know. There's a lot of really awesome people out there streaming today. And I'm going to update my links in this video. Look for the replay of it. Hopefully I get this fixed. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget the bells so you know when I'm actually doing these streams. I do stream them live on Saturdays if I can. This week has been terrible for accidents and problems and things. So yeah, check me out and have a good day.